बीटीएस ऑनलाइन में कैसे कराओगे आप?
So
नहीं, सो दिस इज माई राइट दिख रहा है या लेफ्ट
yes,
दिख
yes,
रहा है? ये
yes,
क्या
right.
दिख रहा है मेरा? ये बताओ, मेरा कम्प्लेक्शन इसमें ना थोड़ा सा ब्लैक, आई मीन व्हाइटिश दिख रहा है ज्यादा. इट्स नॉट लुकिंग स्किन कलर, मतलब कि ठीक है, बट फिर भी ऐसे लाइटिंग एंड ऑल में डिफरेंस लग रही है. इट इज फाइन. मैम,
Yes,
आप आर यू
I
ट्रैवलिंग टू
want to
दिल्ली
make it
समटाइम्स?
look
आपका भी
natural.
क्लास, आई थिंक षणमुगा मैम, आपका हेड का ना बार बार इट इज गोइंग आउट ऑफ द फ्रेम अ लिटिल बिट, बीच बीच में, लाइक इंटरमिटेंटली. तो आप थोड़ा चैट जीपीटी करो या आपके साथ कोई बैठा है उससे करवाओ कि अगर टू एजुकेटर्स आर रिकॉर्डिंग वर्चुअली फॉर अ सेशन, सो हम बीटीएस कैसे कर सकते हैं. इट गिव्स ब्रिलियंट आइडियाज. अरे आप करके तो देखो. मैंने और डॉक्टर नेहा ने बहुत बार ढूंढा है, एंड मतलब वी गेट समथिंग इंटरेस्टिंग.
Integrated session
Okay,
where
ma'am, I have to look that side. You have to look.
is glycogen storage disorders.
Ma'am, just sorry. Once again, we'll do. I'll just start my screen recording. I forgot to start my screen recording. Chalo, let's start once again. Sorry.
Hi everyone, welcome to this special dual educator integrated session where biochemistry meets clinical pediatrics. And no other topic can be a better fit for this session other than glycogen storage disorders. Obviously, because for you to be able to make a diagnosis of these disorders, you need to first understand biochemical concepts so that you clearly understand clinical features, integrate it with biochemical findings, make a diagnosis, and understand the management. So for this session, our plan is for me to discuss about biochemical concepts and to help you to make a diagnosis based on clinical and biochemical features. There is Meenakshi ma'am. She will be discussing about the management part. And of course, she will add more on clinical features. Right, ma'am?
Yes, absolutely. So let us begin this session. So glycogen storage disorders, what are they? We know glycogen storage disorders are a group of inborn errors of metabolism, and they are inherited disorders. So most of these disorders have a autosomal recessive inheritance. So there are gene defects which are going to lead to, defects in the metabolic pathway, which mainly deal with either, the production or the deposition or the metabolism of glycogen in various forms, leading to, abnormal excessive deposition in most of the cases. In some of the disorders, you'll see that there is no deposition of glycogen at all also. So in most of these diseases, you find, abnormal excessive deposition of glycogen in various organs. The organs mainly to be affected, ma'am, as we know. So they are liver, brain, and muscles. So liver and muscles to be more precise, and of course brain will be affected in hypoglycemia, and you can have neurological features, and other systems can also be affected. Yes. So we know there are so many types of glycogen storage diseases, right? So we know type 0 is one, which is glycogen synthase deficiency, which as we'll be discussing, you'll see is an exception where, of course, there is no deposition of glycogen in the liver. Then you have the other types like type 1 Von-Giacche disease is usually the most common to present amongst children, and where we have a deficiency of glucose 6 phosphatase, right? Type 2 Pompe disease is very, very special because it has muscle involvement. Along with that, very, very important, it has cardiac involvement. So this is acid maltase deficiency, and this has come as a direct question also. So which enzyme is deficient in Pompe disease? So we know it is acid maltase, and it is also known as alpha glucosidase, right? So it is also known as alpha glucosidase. Cori disease, we know it is D branching enzyme deficiency. So all of us know C with D, Cori disease is D branching enzyme deficiency, and A with B. So Anderson disease, we know is branching enzyme deficiency, right? McArdle disease again is a special one because it is the most common glycogen storage disorder in adolescents. And again, you can remember M for M. So McArdle disease, you have muscle phosphorylase or myophosphorylase deficiency. And it is mainly the skeletal muscles which is affected. Cardiac muscles are usually not affected in this disorder. Then you have HERS disease, which is type 6. Again, you can remember H with H. So type 6 HERS disease. What is the deficiency? So it is hepatic phosphorylase. So liver phosphorylase or hepatic phosphorylase deficiency. Type 7 is Tarui disease. You have phosphofructokinase deficiency. And again, there is another one, which is type 11, which is the Fanconi-Bickel syndrome, where you have a GLUT2 transporter defect. Yes. So over to you, ma'am, for discussing the concepts in more detail which are involved in these glycogen storage diseases.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. So, ma'am made my process easier. She helped you understand the various types, their names, and the enzyme defects. Now, for you to understand or to make a diagnosis based on clinical features, I'm going to tell you a few biochemical concepts quickly as one-liners. The first concept that you have to know is there are two pathways which can maintain blood glucose. One is liver glycogenolysis, the other one is gluconeogenesis. Second fact is for both these pathways, there is a common enzyme, which is glucose 6 phosphatase. That is why whenever there is a defect of glucose 6 phosphatase, neither glycogenolysis nor gluconeogenesis can maintain blood glucose in the fasting state, which means glucose 6 phosphatase defect presents itself as severe fasting hypoglycemia, which as ma'am mentioned, it is called as von Gierke's disease or type 1 glycogen storage disorder. So based on this, the first fact that you have understood is type 1 glycogen storage disorder, which is von Gierke's disease, would present with severe fasting hypoglycemia because in this condition, neither glycogenolysis nor gluconeogenesis can maintain plasma glucose. Good
Absolutely.
fact.
Yes.
Yeah. So, for the first time when I learned about this, this was like an epiphany moment for me. Why should it present with severe fasting hypoglycemia? Why did they call it as type 1 glycogen storage disorder? Obviously, because something which is severe would have come to the attention of clinicians first, right? So it presents with severe fasting hypoglycemia. Now, third fact, glycogen is stored in two tissues. One is liver, the other one is muscle. Fourth fact is the purpose of glycogen in liver is to maintain blood glucose, or in other words, liver glycogen can increase plasma glucose, whereas muscle glycogen cannot increase plasma glucose. Muscle glycogen will be used only for muscle purposes, which means whenever there is a liver glycogen metabolism defect, that causes fasting hypoglycemia. Whereas whenever there is a muscle glycogen metabolism defect, that presents as exercise intolerance. And if there is a defect of both liver glycogen and muscle glycogen metabolism, you see a combination of both fasting hypoglycemia and exercise intolerance. And this is the basis on which you can classify glycogen storage disorders into four categories. So the first category presents with the fasting hypoglycemia. The second category presents with exercise intolerance. The third category presents with both fasting hypoglycemia and exercise intolerance. The last category presents with neither fasting hypoglycemia nor exercise intolerance. Yeah, just because
Absolutely.
this
Yeah.
right? So if you know this classification in your mind, then the moment you see a mother coming and complaining of fasting hypoglycemia, again, no mother is going to complain about fasting hypoglycemia. In her words, it would be there is frequent crying, cry between meals, demand for frequent feeding, a
And
cry.
ma'am, they also have, early morning lethargy or early morning seizures because, nighttime, obviously, we do not feed the babies as often we feed during the daytime. So they can have this early morning lethargy, early morning seizures as a feature. Yeah.
Yeah, seizures, early morning seizures. So these are the ways in which this is going to present. Fasting hypoglycemia would present as these manifestations. Whereas if the mother comes and complains of exercise intolerance, when I say mother, so if there is a mother who's saying my child is not able to play as much as my friend's child, or she's saying my child is not able to play as much as my child's friend, right? We should not turn philosophical saying, okay, no, don't compare your child with other children.
Exactly. Being a pediatrician, this scenario we've seen so many times. So,
Huh.
don't take it very lightly. If there is
Uh,
actually, exercise intolerance, then you must, come to a pediatrician. You must get your child investigated. And obviously, we will first look at the clinical features and look at whether it is really abnormal or not. Your child might be having a dark colored urine. Rhabdomyolysis and all can happen if, really there is exercise intolerance. And so you'll get a lot of clues when we actually take a good history and do examination, and of course we'll do the investigation workup as well.
Perfectly said, yes. So let me also add to this, mother's instincts are always to be taken seriously. I think
Of
ma'am
course,
would
very,
add.
very much because children, as we know, can hardly speak. So, yes, of course, the mothers who watch the baby so closely, stay with the baby all of the time. So, their opinion definitely matters a lot. Yes,
Yes.
well
So
said.
that would be exercise intolerance. Whereas if you see a combination of both, what are the conditions that you should think about? And if you're seeing something other than fasting hypoglycemia and exercise intolerance, and how do you make a diagnosis, right? So that is the concept behind this classification. Now, what are the types which fit into the first category when you see fasting hypoglycemia? Type 0, type 1, type 3, and type 6. I want you to memorize this. Type 0, type 1, type 3, type 6 would present with fasting hypoglycemia. As we go ahead, in this session, we have many MCQs which have been previously asked as case-based MCQs. So using those cases, when we try to solve those MCQs, you'll be able to understand this better. So type 0, type 1, type 3, type 6 would present as fasting hypoglycemia. Now,
And
what
we
are the
remember
types?
which ones are these? Yes, do you remember? So type 0 was glycogen synthase deficiency. Type 1, von Wienerke disease, that is glucose 6 phosphatase deficiency. Type 3 was Cori disease, the debranching enzyme deficiency. And type 6 was Her's disease, the hepatic phosphorylase deficiency, right?
Yes. So that revision definitely helps, right? It's all about repetition. So this is about fasting hypoglycemia. Coming back to exercise intolerance, it is 0 and then odd numbers. What are the odd numbers? Type 3, type 5, and type 7. So I'm repeating this for exercise intolerance. It is type 0, type 3, type 5, and type 7. Now you will be telling me the answer for the third category. What are the conditions which present with both? What are the types that you see in both the lists, type 0 and type 3? So both fasting hypoglycemia and exercise intolerance would be type 0 and type 3.
And do remember this, we have questions and case scenarios coming up where you have to, make out which are the ones where, both muscle and liver is involved. You have to
Yeah,
pick
how to
it up from the
distinguish.
case scenario. Yes.
Exactly. So now the last one, neither fasting hypoglycemia nor exercise intolerance. These are the left out disorders. What are the left out disorders? Type 2 and we also have type 4. Okay, type 2 and type 4 present with neither fasting hypoglycemia nor exercise intolerance. This is a simple, a shortcut for you to be able to make a diagnosis based on features, right? So,
Absolutely. Yeah. And I
and
would add on that, type 2 holds a special place because it has cardiac muscle involvement. So, it
yes.
is Pompe disease, as we already mentioned. And if it is in the infantile form, the
Mhm.
baby can have heart failure, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, ECG changes, along with, having hypotonia, a floppy baby. So,
Yep.
when you're getting both skeletal and cardiac muscle involvement, as well as, hepatic involvement to some extent. So, there's a mixed kind of picture. And cardiac muscle involvement is the most predominant thing, of course.
I
Yes.
have a shortcut for you to remember this. In Pompey's, the pump is affected, right?
Yeah, that's a nice one.
The
Yeah.
body, yeah. Which is the pump of your body, heart. So as ma'am rightly said, type 2 Pompey's always remember cardiac involvement. Okay. So
Yeah,
this is
absolutely.
the classification. Now let's start discussing MCQs one by one. Ma'am,
Yes.
please over.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. So we have the first question for you, and this has come in the NEET PG 2023, of course. Child was there who had fatigue after exercise, and the blood sample, okay, collected soon after exercise showed low glucose and lactate level. So here it is clear that the child is getting fatigued after exercise. So skeletal muscle involvement is definitely there, right? But the confusion causing thing is, ma'am, why is there this hypoglycemia? So is liver also involved? What do you think? Yes, and we are waiting for our viewers also to answer. So do you think it is only skeletal muscle involvement or liver is also involved here? So
That's a
depending on that, of course, our answer will be, and we'll be coming to the answer. Yes.
That's a perfect question, ma'am. This is where students often get confused. I want you to be mindful when you read the stem of the question. The stem of the question does not say fasting hypoglycemia. It's
Absolutely. So that is the catch thing that you have to remember. So sometimes, the words, the key words which you would have found if they are missing, then
yeah.
also it is a very, very important message for you. So it's
Yes.
not like fasting hypoglycemia is not mentioned here. So this hypoglycemia could have been triggered after, exercise.
exercise. So post-exercise low glucose is completely different from fasting hypoglycemia. Here there is exercise intolerance accompanied by low glucose after exercise, and after exercise lactate level is also low. In a normal person, post-exercise lactate level is expected to be high. In this case, it is low. And that is classical of McArdle's disease. So what we are going to do now is, what if there is a complaint, chief complaint of exercise intolerance? What are the types that you should consider? How do you differentiate these types? I'm going to wait for a second for you to recollect and answer this question. What are the types which fit into this category with exercise intolerance? 0. And then I said odd numbers, 3, 5, and 7. Right? Now let's recollect whatever ma'am told about types, right? The names and the enzyme defects. Type 0, ma'am said it is glycogen synthase deficiency. She also clearly explained it is type 0 because it's a glycogen storage disorder without glycogen storage. And that's why it is type 0. Right. And then type 3, you can remember it this way, third alphabet, right? Third alphabet is C. Type 3, C stands for Cory's disease. All of you recollect this. It's caused by a defect of debranching enzyme. And before we proceed further, let me also tell you this. Whenever the enzyme's name has a prefix as liver or as muscle, it means the enzyme is defective only in liver or only in muscle. If there is no prefix, it means it's defective in both the places. Okay. So here, debranching enzyme, there is no prefix as liver or muscle. It means it's defective both in liver as well as in muscle. Okay. Now, type 5, McArdle's disease. And this is what we were discussing about now. M for M, McArdle's disease is because of the defect of muscle phosphorylase. Type 7, Tarow's disease. You know, this is caused by the defect of phosphofructokinase 1. So we know the type, we know the name, we know the enzyme defect. Based on this, we are going to write down the expected manifestations. Glycogen synthase deficiency, there is no prefix as liver or muscle, which means it's defective both in liver and in muscle. When liver glycogen is not synthesized, when it is not stored in the fasting state, liver will not be able to release glucose. And that causes fasting hypoglycemia. When muscle is not able to store glycogen, when the muscle starts exercising, it will not get adequate glucose. And that causes exercise intolerance. So this is a condition that presents with both fasting hypoglycemia and exercise intolerance. So to confirm this, you can also ask for liver biopsy. On liver biopsy, if you see 0 glycogen, it is type 0. Whereas if you see an abnormal glycogen with multiple branches, because the enzyme that is defective is debranching enzyme, whereas glycogen phosphorylase is active. Glycogen phosphorylase removes all peripheral glucose residues until there are multiple branches which exist close to the core. And that structure is called as limit dextrin. So on liver biopsy, if you see limit dextrin, then it is type 3. That is why type 3 is otherwise called as limit dextrinosis. So this is how you can differentiate type 0 and type 3. Otherwise, both present with fasting hypoglycemia and exercise intolerance.
Absolutely. And clinically, I would say hepatomegaly is a big distinguishing factor.
Yeah. Yes. Now about type 5 McArdle's disease. Muscle phosphorylase is defective. What do you expect in this condition? Whenever the person tries to perform some anaerobic exercises, say you're asking the person to clench one fist. That's a type of isometric. It's an isometric exercise or anaerobic exercise. This the person will be able to do only for the initial few minutes. After which the person complains of painful muscle cramp, which we call as intolerance to anaerobic exercises. When the person complains of intolerance to anaerobic, meaning if the person complains of muscle cramp, at that point, collect a blood sample. Because you and I, even ma'am, would have experienced muscle cramp multiple times, right? That doesn't mean we are suffering from McArdle's disease. So how do we differentiate the muscle cramp that we experience and the muscle cramp which a person with McArdle's experiences? In our case, when there is a muscle cramp, if our blood sample is collected, in that blood sample, you will see normal glucose and elevated lactate level.
Yes, because anaerobic metabolism, we all know that lactate will be
Lactate
produced.
is
Yeah.
released, right?
Yeah,
Whereas in the person with McArdle's, there is muscle glycogenolysis defect. Muscle is not able to get glucose from its glycogen. So the muscle takes glucose from the blood, right? If its glycogen cannot give glucose, muscle will start taking glucose from the blood. So in that blood sample, after exercise, that is why I told you, after exercise, you see low glucose level. And after exercise, there is a failure in elevation of lactate level. Lactate level cannot rise. There is not enough glucose, there is not enough lactate formation. So this is how you will be able to find out if it's McArdle's disease. So
So that is
McArdle's,
why the hypoglycemia was there after exercise. So there was no, as such, hypoglycemia was not there. But after exercise, there was hypoglycemia.
yes. So it presents with exercise intolerance with low glucose and low lactate level after exercise. In Tarow's disease, the enzyme that is defective is phosphofructokinase 1. Phosphofructokinase 1 is the rate-limiting enzyme of glycolysis. Glycolysis is indispensable for RBCs and white muscle fibers. When RBCs get affected, it presents as hemolytic anemia. So one of the findings in Tarow's disease is hemolytic anemia. When white muscle fibers get affected, that presents as exercise intolerance. So if you see a combination of exercise intolerance and hemolytic anemia, suspect type 7 glycogen storage disorder, which is Tarow's disease, right?
Absolutely. And it would become slightly difficult to diagnose because as such, anemia or pallor is going to cause, easy fatigability and difficulty in exercise. So that is going to be there. So you need to have a high index of suspicion to diagnose it. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So as we discuss the algorithm, that will be the last part of this session. When I give you an algorithm for making a diagnosis of all these glycogen storage disorders, I'll talk about some basic investigations that can be done to find out whether there is hemolysis or no hemolysis. For now, this is about the presentation, right? So now over to Meenakshi ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So, as ma'am already discussed, this coming back to McArdle's disease. So, McArdle's disease is the most common glycogen storage disorder to present in adolescents and adults. So, this is a very important concept that, it is not that these inherited disorders present only in childhood. No, they can present any time in life, right? So this, in fact, McArdle disease is the most common GSD to present in adolescence and even adulthood. And as ma'am mentioned, so there is going to be exercise intolerance. And what will happen? So because of this exercise intolerance, sometimes what happens? There could be rhabdomyolysis, and that will give rise to myoglobinuria. Okay, so rhabdomyolysis can happen, and that will give rise to myoglobinuria. So you can have a dark colored urine, or a cola colored urine can also be there, right? So if you're getting that, we need to again have a high index of suspicion. And of course, low, hypoglycemia after exercise and decreased lactate levels after exercise again strengthen our clue, right? And so coming back to our question, so this was our question. The child was fatigued after exercise and the blood sample collected soon after showed low glucose and lactate levels. So here there's no doubt that it is mainly the skeletal muscles that is involved. So McArdle disease is our best answer here. Regarding the other options, von Guericke disease, we know it is a disorder where mainly, it is the liver which is involved. So main manifestation would be fasting hypoglycemia would be there. So this muscle involvement is not seen in von Guericke disease. Tarui disease, we already mentioned that, apart from exercise intolerance, hemolytic anemia would also be a feature, which is not mentioned in the case here. And again, Anderson disease is not going to present this way. Type 4 or Anderson disease is a condition which will not have, this hepatomegaly, hypoglycemia will not be there, but it can have liver cirrhosis. So again, here there is no hepatic involvement in the case scenario. We are not thinking about Anderson disease as well. So how do you manage McArdle disease? So there is no drug which can actually, treat or cure McArdle disease. It is lifestyle modification, which is the key to management. So what you have to do is you have to modify the type of exercises that you do. So we have to avoid doing isometric exercises for a long time, and very rigorous exercises have to be avoided, and adequately we need to warm up before starting to exercise, right? So if we do that, then there will not be much of a problem. And before doing exercise, we can have a carbohydrate. So you can have a say 30 to 40 gram of sucrose. You can make a sugar solution and have it just before exercise. So that also helps. So dietary modification, of course, if you take a well balanced diet with adequate proteins and glucose, it is going to help. Adequate sugar. And rhabdomyolysis, if by chance a patient lands into rhabdomyolysis, then we have to take care of the hydration part very, very rigorously. IV
Mm.
fluids need to be started, otherwise, the patient can go in acute kidney injury and renal shutdown can also happen. Yes. So, moving on to our next case scenario. So, here in the next question, we have a baby, a patient who presented with an x ray showing cardiomegaly. So, you can see the huge cardiac shadow, right? And along with that, there is symptoms of hypotonia, macroglossia. So, hypotonia indicates that skeletal muscle involvement is there. This cardiomegaly is indicating me that cardiac involvement is also there. And hepatomegaly and floppy baby syndrome. What do you mean by floppy baby syndrome? So, baby has generalized hypotonia. So normally, the babies have a cuddled up or flexed posture. So here the baby is having a totally extended or a floppy frog-like posture is there, right? So what is the most likely diagnosis? So here with the cardiac involvement, with the, a little bit of hypotonia and hepatomegaly. So again, I am thinking of an inborn error of metabolism where there is cardiac muscle involvement mainly. So I would again go with Pompe disease here, right? So we'll be coming to in more detail with ma'am why are we going towards it, but a little bit about the other options first. So Epstein anomaly, it is a condition where you get this. What is this? So this is box-shaped heart. Okay, so box-shaped heart. So Epstein anomaly is a condition where there is abnormal tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve is structurally also abnormal, functionally also abnormal, and there is downward displacement of the tricuspid valve leading to atrialization of right ventricle. Okay, and so the all the chambers of the heart are hugely enlarged, mainly the right atrium. So you get this box shaped heart, which you're not getting in the image provided here. And what do you see here? So this is the egg on side appearance, which you get in the transposition of great arteries. So we are not thinking of that either, right? So coming back to our glycogen storage diseases, so coming back to the pathophysiology of Pompe disease, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. So, as ma'am mentioned, Pompe's disease is caused by the defect of acid maltase, otherwise called as alpha glucosidase. You must be wondering what is the exact function of this enzyme, right? We never discuss about alpha glucosidase whenever we learn about metabolism. So what exactly is the function? 2% of glycogen that is present in cardiac muscle and skeletal muscle get metabolized using this enzyme within lysosomes. If you're wondering what about the remaining 98% of glycogen, the remaining get metabolized in cytoplasm by glycogenolysis using a different set of enzymes. The 2% of glycogen get metabolized within lysosomes using acid maltase or alpha glucosidase. When that enzyme is defective, this 2% of glycogen would accumulate in a chronic manner, both in skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle. When something accumulates in cardiac muscle, obviously that causes cardiomegaly. And that's what was shown as X-ray and ma'am was explaining about it, right? So it presents with cardiomegaly, cardiomyopathy, and cardiac failure. And I also gave you a shortcut to remember this. In Pompe's, the pump is affected, heart is affected. When 2% of skeletal muscle continuously gets accumulated in skeletal muscle, that affects the skeletal muscle infrastructure and that causes hypotonia. And this hypotonia in the newborn period, in the neonate, hypotonia presents itself as respiratory difficulties. Obviously, because diaphragm is a skeletal muscle, if that loses its tone, it presents with respiratory difficulties initially, and that progresses to floppy baby. And ma'am was mentioning about floppy baby, how to make a diagnosis in the infantile period or earlier than that, how to make a diagnosis. So to summarize, if you see in Pompe's, both skeletal muscle and cardiac muscle get affected. It presents as cardiomegaly, cardiomyopathy, heart failure. It presents with respiratory difficulties and as floppy baby. It is usually a rapidly progressive disorder. Death happens close to 2 years. And enzyme replacement therapy is available for this condition. But the number or the age of presentation is usually not a hard and fast rule. This was also mentioned by ma'am. So McArdle's disease does not always present in childhood, it presents well into adulthood. Similarly, Pompey's disease, though I said death happens close to 2 years, it's not a hard and fast rule. I have seen an adult patient with Pompey's disease presenting only with one complaint, and it was sudden fall. The person only had one complaint was sudden fall, and then when we investigated, we found out that glycogen is accumulated within lysosome in the muscle biopsy. So
Yes,
that
absolutely. Yeah. So Pompe's disease has an infantile form also and a juvenile form also. Yes.
So this is about, so it's all about the residual enzyme activity that is present in a person, right? So that is about what you can expect in Pompey's disease.
Yes. So summarizing it once again, what ma'am has said. So in the infantile period, if Pompey's disease presents, it can be a lethal illness. So in the infantile period, it is very, very important to recognize it early. Okay. So infantile form is usually, as ma'am mentioned, fatal by 2 to 3 years age. And so we have to recognize it early and start enzyme replacement therapy. So very, very important, because many of the metabolic disorders, you will see that there is nothing much that we can do, not much treatment is available. But Pompe disease infantile form enzyme replacement therapy is very much available, and it produces awesome results. So the cardiomegaly goes down, and the symptoms improve, the child can have a near normal life, but of course the cost remains prohibitive. So here, before moving ahead, let us just list down what are the disorders for which enzyme replacement therapy is available. So enzyme replacement therapy is available, of course, for Pompe disease. We mentioned that is the type 2 glycogen storage disorder. It is also available for some of the mucopolysaccharidosis. So it is available for type 1, that is Hurler disease, type 2, that is Hunter disease, type 6, that is Marotex-Lamé disease. It is also available for Gaucher disease. So Gaucher disease is a very, very important lysosomal storage disorder where, enzyme replacement therapy makes a huge difference. The huge splenohepatomegaly regresses, the bone pains, the pancytopenia, everything improves miraculously. So for Gaucher disease, again, you have it available. For Fabry disease, you have, enzyme replacement therapy available. And recently, even for Niemann-Pick disease, enzyme replacement therapy is available. So whenever you are studying, don't just make a tubular vision and, confine yourself to one particular topic or subtopic. Try to integrate. Whenever you are studying, try to think of what else, similar to this, what are the things, where else have you heard about it? Like we are talking about enzyme replacement therapy, you should be able to recollect what all are the disorders where we talked about enzyme replacement therapy. Yes. And of course, supportive care makes a huge difference. Like in Pompe disease, as the cardiac involvement is there, you also have to treat the heart failure part. So for that, you will have to use diuretics, digoxin, and so on, apart from the enzyme replacement therapy part. Yeah. So again, back to our question, there is no doubt here. Then cardiomegaly is there, floppy baby, hypotonia, macroglossia, hepatomegaly. So our diagnosis definitely is Pompe disease. Epstein anomaly, we already saw the box-shaped heart. Transposition of great arteries, we already saw the egg on side appearance. And von Guericke disease, we know it is mainly a disease where liver is involved. So there would have been, fasting hypoglycemia and a lot of other features that we'll be coming to very, very shortly. And of course, cardiac muscle involvement is not there in von Guericke disease. So our best answer here definitely is Pompe disease. Yes. So moving ahead to our next question. So again, what we have here is a 4-year-old child who presents with easy fatigability. So easy fatigability. So what are we thinking of? Skeletal muscle involvement is probably there. And the mother also complained that child was more hungry between meals and the child recovers after food. And liver examination revealed no glycogen. So here, easy fatigability, meaning skeletal muscle involvement is there. More hungry between meals. So probably the baby is having hypoglycemia, right? So that is there. So liver involvement and muscle involvement both are there. But liver examination or the liver biopsy is showing no glycogen. Yes, ma'am. What do you think? Our students, our viewers will be able to answer this now?
Zero,
Yes.
for sure.
Let us wait
Zero
for their
glycogen
answers
type
before you
zero.
move ahead to discuss this.
Yeah, zero glycogen is type 0. And
Exactly.
right,
Okay.
whenever
Yeah.
you see exercise intolerance and fasting hypoglycemia as given in the question, liver biopsy. Liver biopsy reveals zero glycogen. So the answer is quite straightforward for this. It is type D, choice D, glycogen synthase defect. And if you're asking me how to exclude other choices, choice A, branching enzyme defect, it is Anderson's disease. And Anderson's disease, we already discussed, presents with neither fasting hypoglycemia nor with exercise intolerance. Instead, it starts as hepatomegaly and it progresses to liver cirrhosis, right? So that is what is expected if it's a branching enzyme defect. And in this case, we can exclude this safely because here there is exercise intolerance and fasting hypoglycemia. Definitely, it's not debranching enzyme defect because debranching enzyme, it is Cory's disease that, yes, presents with exercise intolerance as well as fasting hypoglycemia, but that should have been hepatomegaly. On liver biopsy, it should have denoted the presence of limit dextrin. Here they have clearly said liver examination reveals zero glycogen. This is not choice B or debranching enzyme defect. And this is not glucose 6-phosphatase defect of von Gierke's disease. Had it been von Gierke's disease, yes, it would have presented with fasting hypoglycemia, which would have been interpreted by the mother or articulated by the mother as hungry between meals and the child recovering after food. But additionally, you would have anticipated elevation of lactate, and there should have been an elevation of triglyceride, elevation of uric acid, and the fasting hypoglycemia would be very severe. And there is no component of exercise intolerance in von Gierke's disease. Because they have not mentioned any other biochemical features here, this is not glucose 6-phosphatase defect. If not for anything else, they would have at least mentioned it as doll-like faces, right? A chubby baby. And
Yes,
we are
so
not
we'll be coming to a question on von Guericke disease where we are going to discuss these clinical features once again in detail for you. Yes.
So this is not choice C. And so the answer is choice D, glycogen synthase defect.
Absolutely. And how do we manage this? So again, as I said, for most of the glycogen storage disorders, dietary management is the key. So here also we have to avoid prolonged fasting, and a high protein diet is usually resorted to, and frequent small carbohydrate meals. Don't give a excessive, carbohydrates at one time also, that will trigger the counter regulatory hormone release and that will cause problems. So frequent small complex carbohydrate meals, and overnight strategy, of course, bedtime protein and complex carbohydrate. So uncooked cornstarch is one thing which is used very, very frequently. Especially we'll be coming to von Guericke disease. There we use it very frequently to prevent hypoglycemias. During illness, again, early carbohydrate supplementation whenever there's fever or intercurrent illness. These you have to avoid nil per oral. If the child is not able to accept orally, you have to start IV fluids. Do not wait till the child's condition deteriorates or severely dehydrates. Please don't wait for that. And of course, especially during the times of illness, home glucose monitoring and ketone monitoring is a key. Yes. So moving ahead to our next case scenario. Yes, ma'am. Would you like to take it up? Yes.
Sure. A 6-month-old infant is brought to the pediatric OPD with complaints of poor feeding, irritability when fasting, progressive abdominal distension. On examination, there is doll-like faces, which I mentioned in the previous MCQ. Doll-like faces classical of von Gierke's disease with protuberant abdomen with hepatomegaly. Lab findings suggest severe fasting hypoglycemia, lactic acidosis, hyperuricemia, hypertriglyceridemia, and ketosis. Which of the following enzyme deficiency is most likely responsible? Whenever you're asked a case-based MCQ, step number 1, summarize positive findings. Step number 2, exclude choices. Okay, so let's try to exclude choices here one by one. The first choice that I would exclude is medium chain acyl-CoA dehydrogenase deficiency. If you're all asking me, what is this enzyme related to? Acyl-CoA dehydrogenase is an enzyme of fatty acid oxidation. Whenever there is a fatty acid oxidation defect, it presents as hypoglycemia again. But that will be a classical non-ketotic fasting hypoglycemia. You will not see ketosis in that condition because when there is a fatty acid oxidation defect, acetyl-CoA cannot be synthesized. Without acetyl-CoA, ketone bodies cannot be synthesized. So all of you get this registered in your mind. Fatty acid oxidation defects present as fasting hypoglycemia, which is non-ketotic. But here they mentioned that there is ketosis. Hence, choice A can be excluded. Okay. Now look at choice B. We know why it can be excluded. Debranching enzyme defect, Pori's disease. There will not only be hypoglycemia, there will also be exercise
Muscle involvement.
intolerance.
I'm sure our students by now have, got this, that Cori disease. Yes, we should we should expect both muscle and liver involvement. Yes.
Yes, you're right. And exercise intolerance. And also in debranching enzyme defect, I'm not going to expect other manifestations like hypertriglyceridemia, hyperuricemia, right? And hence it is not choice B. Choice D, obviously, I don't think I'll have to talk about it anymore, right? So McArdle's disease, muscle phosphorylase defect, right, ma'am? It should present with the exercise intolerance, and it's not going to present with hypoglycemia. So the straightforward answer for this question is choice C, glucose 6-phosphatase defect. And following this, let's try to understand how to make a diagnosis when the presenting feature is fasting hypoglycemia. We already discussed that glycogen storage disorders which present with fasting hypoglycemia include 4 types, right? Type 0, type 1, type 3, and type 6. Now, what are the names? Let's quickly write down the names. Type 0 is glycogen synthase deficiency. Type 1 is von Gierke's disease caused by the defect of glucose 6-phosphatase. Type 3, Cori's disease, debranching enzyme defect. And type 6, Hers disease caused by the defect of liver phosphorylase. Because we know the names and the enzyme defects, let's write down the features, right? Already we discussed about glycogen synthase deficiency. We know for sure. Here both liver and muscle are affected. So it presents with both fasting hypoglycemia and exercise intolerance. On liver biopsy, you see 0 glycogen. This is already done. Now, von Gierke's disease or glucose 6-phosphatase defect. When glucose 6-phosphatase is defective, I said it's a common enzyme for both glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. So when this enzyme is defective, it presents a severe fasting hypoglycemia, which does not respond to counter-regulatory hormone administration. That is classical or pathognomonic for von Gierke's disease. It presents a severe fasting hypoglycemia, which does not respond to counter-regulatory hormone administration. You might administer glucagon. You can administer norepinephrine. Any of these counter-regulatory hormones, they don't have a special magic to increase blood glucose. They increase blood glucose only by stimulating glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. Both these pathways come and stop at glucose 6-phosphate point, beyond which blood glucose cannot be increased. So which does not respond to counter-regulatory hormone administration, that is von Gierke's disease.
Yes, ma'am. So in pediatric age group, especially in infancy, in many conditions where the baby is having hypoglycemia, we often resort to glucagon injection. We keep it as an emergency measure, especially in cases like PHHI, persistent hyperinsulinemic hypoglycemia of infancy. So we use glucagon often. But here in Wonjiagi, as ma'am mentioned, so even if we give glucagon injection, we will not be able to raise the blood glucose of the baby.
Yes. Yes, that is classical and pathognomonic for this condition. Apart from this, for you to understand other manifestations of von Gierke's disease, when glucose 6-phosphatase is defective, glucose 6-phosphate accumulates. The accumulated glucose 6-phosphate enters into glycolysis, forming 2 molecules of pyruvate. We know that. These 2 molecules of pyruvate become 2 acetyl-CoA. These 2 acetyl-CoA molecules are building blocks for fatty acid synthesis. Excess fatty acid is synthesized. This excess fatty acid is stored as triacylglycerol. So the child does not only present with fasting hypoglycemia, the child also presents with hypertriglyceridemia. The same acetyl-CoA is also a building block for cholesterol. Even if you don't know this till today, please remember acetyl-CoA is a building block for both fatty acid and cholesterol. So excess acetyl-CoA enters into cholesterol synthesis and that causes hypercholesterolemia. Okay, this hypertriglyceridemia is the reason for doll-like faces. What happens when triglyceride accumulates in the cheeks? You see chubby cheeks, right? So child with chubby cheek is what is described as doll-like faces. And triglycerides also accumulate in organs. When it accumulates in liver, right, you see hepatomegaly, you see renomegaly, and these two would cause abdominal distension. So the
And
child
ma'am,
is
but sometimes, the questions ask that what is deposited in the liver in Wonsiarke disease. So then there's a confusion. Yeah.
yes, it is triglyceride, right? When you would not have I mean, envisage this. When glucose 6 phosphatase is defect, we would always think of something in relevance
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
carbohydrates, right?
Yeah.
So here
Yeah.
there is triglyceride accumulation, which causes hepatomegaly, renomegaly, and abdominal distension. And excess cholesterol is responsible for xanthomas. These kids have multiple xanthomas all over their body. And the accumulated acetyl-CoA also condenses to form ketone bodies. Now, do you understand why you see ketosis in von Gilkey's disease? And this is what is absent in fatty acid oxidation defect. These two molecules of pyruvate do not only become acetyl-CoA, they can also become lactate. And that is responsible for lactic acidosis. So in von Gilkey's disease, you see lactic acidosis. The accumulated glucose 6 phosphate does not only get into glycolysis, some of these glucose 6 phosphate molecules enter into HMP shunt. And through HMP shunt, you get ribose 5 phosphate. Ribose 5 phosphate is used for purine and pyrimidine synthesis. Excess purine will be broken down to form uric acid. And that is why you see hyperuricemia. So to comprehend all that we have learned about von Gilkey's disease, clinical presentation would be severe fasting hypoglycemia, which does not respond to counter-regulatory hormone administration. The child is chubby. You see doll-like faces. There is abdominal distension because of hepatomegaly, renomegaly. You see xanthomas everywhere. This is about clinical features.
And of
Biochemically,
course, these, ma'am, elevated uric acid can also sometimes lead to renal stones in them. We've seen
yes.
patients coming with, renal colic, renal
Oh,
stones. Yeah.
that's interesting, huh? So renal stones because of uric acid elevation. So biochemically, what do you see? You see hypoglycemia. Apart from that, hypertriglyceridemia, hypercholesterolemia, ketosis, lactic acidosis, and hyperuricemia. Right? So over to you, ma'am, to add more features about it.
Yes, ma'am. So I think we've covered the clinical features very well. So starting with doll-like faces, so the chubby-looking faces is there, the
Mm,
abdominal distension, the hepatomegaly,
mm,
renomegaly can be there, and on investigation, these stones can be there. You can have even gout-like features because of uric acid. So
yeah.
all these we need to address when we are planning the management of these children with Wonsiarke disease.
Mm,
So
mm,
what all do we do? So first thing is in the infantile period, especially when the baby is having hypoglycemia. So we have to give frequent feeding to these babies, right? So when these babies are having hypoglycemia, you have to give frequent feeds to avoid that because hypoglycemia can have lifelong, consequences on the brain. So there can be a lot of damage that can happen. And in the night time, we resort to uncooked cornstarch feeds. So we can put a nasogastric tube through which, uncooked cornstarch is a complex carbohydrate which
mm.
cannot be digested very easily. So it provides a continuous slow release of carbohydrate which prevents the development of fasting hypoglycemia. So night time through the nasogastric tube you can give uncooked cornstarch as feed, right? Apart from that, of course, when the child grows up, you can teach them that no periods of prolonged fasting should be there. Frequent intake of complex carbohydrate food items should be there. Apart from that, to manage the ancillary conditions, like if there is a lot of hyperuricemia which is causing problems, you may resort to using allopurinol. If there is hypertriglyceridemia and hypercholesterolemia is like beyond the cutoff levels, we might have to use treat the statins to treat the hyperlipidemia part. So basically symptomatic management is the key, but a wholesome management is required to address the various issues that the child is having. And we also need to tell them that giving glucagon is not going to help, so please don't resort to that. Yes. So, moving ahead to our last question that we'll be discussing for the day. So, we
Yeah.
have a 3-year-old child who is brought to the pediatric clinic with the complaints of progressive abdominal distension and poor weight gain. So there is abdominal distension, okay, and the parents report that the child tires easily and has episodes of irritability if the meals are delayed. Now, tires easily tells me that probably again there could be some skeletal muscle involvement. Irritability if the meals are delayed tells me that probably there is hypoglycemia that is happening in between meals. On examination, the child has hepatomegaly and mild muscle weakness. So, again, I am getting clues of both liver involvement and skeletal muscle involvement, right? So, there is no history of seizures, thankfully, which could have very well happened because of hypoglycemia. But the hypoglycemia probably is not so severe enough to cause seizures here. The laboratory investigations reveal mild fasting hypoglycemia. So, hypoglycemia is there, but it is mild and fasting. Elevated liver enzymes are there. The lactate levels are normal. And elevated CPK levels again is a telltale sign for skeletal muscle involvement here. So, there is no doubt that I'm having both liver involvement and skeletal muscle involvement here. Hepatomegaly is there. That tells me that something is deposited in the liver here. Okay, so it is not the type 0 type where there is no glycogen in the liver. Yes, a liver biopsy shows excess glycogen accumulation with short outer branches. So remember, ma'am mentioned limit dextrin. So the abnormally branched substance is depositing in the liver. In the liver biopsy, you can see this limit dextrinosis. So of course, we all know that we are dealing with, yes. Can our viewers tell us what are we dealing here? So we are dealing with, yes, we are dealing with Cori disease, that is debranching enzyme deficiency. So both liver and skeletal muscle involved, and you have, no cardiac muscle involvement. There is hepatomegaly. There is, accumulation of this branched, abnormally branched substance in the liver, that is limit dextrin, right? So, ma'am, I think we've discussed all the major, glycogen storage diseases, the common ones that are often that have been asked in exams, and the concept behind them, why the clinical features are happening, why those investigation findings. And now we would like you to summarize the biochemical perspective and the algorithm behind how to approach these patients.
Sure. Yes, I can do that. So, as I've been always telling you, there are two categories: fasting hypoglycemia, exercise intolerance. If there is fasting hypoglycemia, what is the algorithm that you need to follow? The first thing is look for features of exercise intolerance. And as ma'am mentioned, finding out that there is exercise intolerance clinically is going to be a challenge, right? Because you
Yeah,
don't know whether
it
the
is
child is
difficult.
tired because of hypoglycemia or is it exercise intolerance. In which case, you can ask for total CK. If total CK is elevated, a part of total CK is CKMM, which comes from skeletal muscle. If that is elevated, that can indicate that the person's muscle is affected. Okay, so if that is fasting hypoglycemia related clinical features, anyway, you're going to collect a blood sample. A fasting sample has to be collected to confirm that there is fasting hypoglycemia. In that blood sample, also estimate CK level. If that is elevated, if that is also elevated, it means there is a combination of both fasting hypoglycemia and exercise intolerance.
Exactly. So CK, we also call it as CPK also. So creatine phosphokinase, we know different isoenzymes are there. Yes. So we'll
Yes.
do the CPK level. And
Yes.
whenever, a child with hypoglycemia comes, we are supposed to take this critical sample because, there are some group of causes, which we want to rule out, ma'am. So
Mm.
critical sample, what all would you advise as a critical sample for, whenever the baby is having hypoglycemia, we take at that time?
So along with that, apart from, yeah, as I mentioned, not only glucose and CK, I would ask for lactate level. I would ask for ketone bodies to be estimated, fat
Exactly.
state
Yeah.
degree. I would ask for lipid profile, lactic acid estimation. So these are basic biochemical parameters that I would always ask for in a child, where I suspect some not just glycogen storage disorder, any inborn error of metabolism. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So if you see a combination of both, then I would look at liver clinically, right? If there is hepatomegaly, then it is Cori's disease. When there is no hepatomegaly, then we know it is. I mean, if you see a combination of fasting hypoglycemia and exercise intolerance, no hepatomegaly is type 0, right? That is clinically. And then to confirm, what I would do is I would ask for liver biopsy. If liver biopsy reveals zero glycogen, it is type 0. If liver biopsy reveals limit dextrin, then it is type 3.
Cori disease, yes.
Right? Now, what if CK is not elevated? There is only fasting hypoglycemia.
I would think of Wong-Chiari disease, ma'am.
Yes, most common that way. Yes. Yeah, most commonly it is von Gierke's disease. And to be very sure about it, what I would do is I would check for response to counter-regulatory hormone administration. When there is no response to counter-regulatory hormone administration, we know that is pathognomonic for von Gierke's disease. When there is response to counter-regulatory hormone administration, and if I have a strong suspicion for glycogen storage disorders in that angle, then I know the diagnosis is type 6, Hers disease, right? And apart from this also, there are few ways in which I can differentiate von Gierke's disease and Hers disease. In von Gierke's disease, I see hypertriglyceridemia as I showed. Whereas in Hers disease, I see an increase in serum free fatty acid level. Because in Hers disease, it's a glycogenolysis defect. So gluconeogenesis is stimulated. That causes peripheral lipolysis, increasing free fatty acid level in the serum. And let's not worry about all these complicated biochemical investigations.
So, ma'am, there was this biochemistry which I really dreaded during my first MBBS. I think out of anat, physio and biochem was the most difficult subject for me. And thankfully, you're making it much simpler now. I wish I had a teacher like you at that time. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's so nice of you to say that. So this is how we can differentiate all these disorders, and you can arrive at a diagnosis when there is a principal presenting feature, which is fasting hypoglycemia. What if it is exercise intolerance? Yeah, this is also very simple. If it is exercise intolerance, again, I collect a fasting blood sample. In that sample, I estimate glucose. I estimate total CK, as I mentioned already. Along with that, I would also estimate LDH, because lactate dehydrogenase is very sensitive to hemolysis. The earliest sign of hemolysis would be an elevation of lactate dehydrogenase. And I want to find out if there is hemolysis. That is why I'm asking for LDH value as well. Now, the interpretation is, what if I see high CK, which means there is exercise intolerance, and fasting hypoglycemia? This we know already. You see both, look at the liver biopsy, zero glycogen is type 0, limit dextrin is type 3.
Cori, yeah.
Right? Now, what if there is an elevation of CK, but fasting glucose is normal? In that case, I look at LDH values. If LDH values are elevated, then there is hemolysis. Whenever I see a combination of exercise intolerance with hemolysis, I would suspect a glycolytic enzyme defect. And in many of these glycolytic enzyme defects, you will also see neurological manifestations, because for neurons also glycolysis is essential.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
looking at all these features, we will be able to find out what it is.
Tarui disease, I think, ma'am.
Yeah, yes, you're right. Perfect.
So finally learned biochemistry.
You're very sharp, ma'am. And what if LDH value is not elevated and it's normal? Then it is McArdle's disease. Because here I see only exercise intolerance, right? I don't see anything else. No fasting hypoglycemia, no hemolysis, which means it is McArdle's disease. So this is the algorithm for exercise intolerance. And apart from this, as I told you, if it's hepatomegaly that progresses to liver cirrhosis, it is Anderson's disease. And if there is cardiac involvement, it is Pompe's disease. So this is the summary as far as biochemistry is concerned with respect to glycogen storage disorders. Over to you, ma'am.
Yes, so again, putting the clinical perspective, the similar things only. So if there is, liver involvement, we said, so if there is hepatomegaly and, there is liver involvement, hepatomegaly and fasting hypoglycemia, I would, of course, consider Wong-Chiari disease, the commonest one, and it will have again the additional features of chubby cheeks, right? So chubby cheeks would be there, and features of hyperuricemia can be there, right? And hyperlipidemia would be there. So clinically, if I'm getting these features, a chubby looking baby with hyperuricemia, hyperlipidemia, abdominal distension, I would think of Wong-Chiari disease. If I am not getting the other features, but there is hepatomegaly, fasting hypoglycemia is there, not so severe, and plus muscle involvement is also there, elevated CPK is there, exercise fatigability is there, I would think of Cori disease. And then if there is, mainly the muscle involvement is there, not no liver involvement as such, no hypoglycemia as such, but after exercise there could be hypoglycemia. So mainly muscle involvement, if it is there, I would think of myocardial disease. So if purely skeletal muscle involvement is there, so I would think of myocardial disease. Okay. And if along with muscle involvement, there is, as ma'am said, hemolysis is also there. Thyroid disease would come, but that is obviously less common. But yes, that I would consider. And if there is cardiac muscle involvement, then definitely, I would consider type 2 GSD, very, very important, Pompe disease, for which we said even enzyme replacement therapy is available, and it can be fatal if not picked up early. So having a high index of suspicion, very, very important to diagnose it, pick it up early. So with the integration of these clinical features, with an understanding of the pathophysiology, we can plan the further workup, the investigations, and we can come to a diagnosis so that early treatment is given, and we can make the lives of these babies, these children, these individuals suffering with various glycogen storage diseases better. So, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you've learned something from glycogen storage disorders. And if any question comes from glycogen storage disorders, a very, very important part of the inborn error of metabolism, which is often asked in your exams, you will definitely definitely going to ace it. Yes, ma'am. What do you think?
Yes,
If
yes, I
I
thoroughly
can, then I'm sure they all can.
Yes, yes, true. You're perfectly right. Yes, I
So, thank you
thoroughly
so
agree with
much
this.
for
Thank
joining
you.
us.